Hi, everyone. Welcome. Just going to keep hitting admit here for a few minutes. Hey, Tamara.
Hello, everybody.
Hey. We got a lot of people joining today. Hi, guys. Hey, Blake. How are you?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for joining today.
Of course.
I know we've got a bunch of people on this call who have met with Tamara and we kind of know you a little bit. So, welcome, Tamara, if you see any of your friends on here.
I do. I see. Hi, Blake. What's going on?
All right, good to see you.
Yeah, let's see. Kara. I see Kate. I see Lori. I've been trying to talk to Megan. Let's see who else do I know in here? Ashley Davis. Hello, everybody. Good to see you, sort of. I know everybody goes on off camera. If you have your camera, turn it on so we can see you. Nonprofit work, as you know, is all about community. So that's definitely what we want to try to
I
elevate.
know we're
Hey,
catching people
Rebecca.
off guard. I know sometimes
Awesome.
everyone's like, oh, it's a webinar. We don't have to show our faces. And then I caught you
It's
all
not a
off
work.
guard because it's a real Zoom call.
Oh, I see
Um,
Phil. Hey, Phil. But
well, and everyone, if you want to just go ahead and pop in the chat where you're calling in from, you're probably from all over the country, maybe even from a few other countries. I see Boston, Austin, Texas, Buffalo, New York, Massachusetts, Houston. Yeah, a lot of places. Awesome. I am calling in today from Savannah, Georgia. Catalina is in Charleston, South Carolina. Tamara, are you actually in Phoenix? You are, right? Yeah. Awesome. All right. I've got 28 people here. I'm going to keep just looking if people join. I'll add them in, but we will go ahead and get started. All right. Awesome. Thank you all so much for coming today. So I'm going to pull up a slide deck. I'm Julia. For those of you who don't know me, you probably get our emails, so you probably know us as Kat and Julia if you're on our email list. So I am Julia. That is Kat. And we also have Tamara on the call today. So we are your resource people. Feel free to drop questions in the chat as we're going through the presentation. We want to keep this really casual and formal. This is really just a resource session for you to learn about the options out there for your career. And hopefully it'll be fun. All right, so if someone can just let me know that you see my screen. Go
yeah,
ahead
you're
and
good.
present. Awesome. All right, thanks. All right, so today we are talking about a topic that is really near and dear to our hearts, navigating career transitions. This is something that Catalina and I did about 5 years ago. We were transitioned from nonprofit employees to nonprofit consultants and have since built a community of nonprofit consultants under the Relatable Nonprofit brand. So we like to do these presentations a few times a year. And like I said, very casual, just sharing with you guys about our experience, our story, and what we did to get started. We know a lot of people are exploring other options right now. This is something that's been, I'd say, becoming more prevalent since the pandemic. That was certainly the switch that we had when we wanted to take more control over our careers. Just gonna add two more people here. So we want to talk to you because we know that we've been hearing from Tamara and we've been hearing from people that we're talking to in our community and just on our email list and people we're connecting with on LinkedIn that a lot of times it's a matter of timing. And everyone on this call is at a different stage in their career. Maybe you're in the first few years and you're just getting started. Maybe you're at this middle point and looking for a change, or maybe you're in this pre-retirement track and you're looking for what comes next. So, and I know people are like, well, I want to start, but I don't know. I hear other people do it, but I have no idea how they did it. So, this is going to hopefully demystify some of that. There's no crazy fancy formula. It's really just sharing with you our story, some other people's stories, and helping you see that it is actually simpler than it sounds. So, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I have a quick agenda here. We'll be talking about how to launch your consulting business from any stage in your career. I'm going to take you through some real life examples of new consultants who successfully made this shift, either friends of ours or in our community. And each one has a little bit of a different story. So I want to show you where no two examples are exactly alike. And then we're going to take you through a 30-day action plan, which is what we lay out in our program in our community for people who decide it is time to take the leap and get started. So we'll walk you through those first steps. And then at the end, we will have a free resource for you to get started on your own. I do want to start with a quick question. If anyone wants to call out their answer, that is fine. You can also pop it in the chat and maybe Tamara can just read some off to me. But I did want to ask, just as we get started, what is one fear that you have right now about becoming a consultant? And I know timing is a huge one. We've been seeing a lot. Not knowing what to do first is another one I hear sometimes. Not having a big enough network. But I'm curious just if anyone else has any specific fears that they wanted to share.
Yeah, some are saying getting started, generating a pipeline of business, cash flow, the fear of nonprofits having no funding. They don't have funds to fire and pay consultants, pipeline generating revenue for sure, unlimited time and no actionable clients, not landing the right amount of contracts, where to find clients, not making enough to support my family. The current political climate, funding cuts is very scary for a lot of leaders.
Yep.
Of course, knowing when is the right time to quit the typical 9 to 5. Yeah, and landing those first couple of clients to get things kind of moving. Difficulty scaling from one client to many. These are good ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. These are great. Yep. So a lot of those first questions about just, it feels like a black box, right? You don't know. Everyone has a friend who's become a consultant. And I always hear the story from people who say that you're in a meeting with the board or with the directors, and a consultant walks in and says the same thing that you all have been saying for years. And then the consultant gets taken seriously and you don't. And then you're like, well, how do I do that? So I love that story. And we want to talk about ways to get you guys to be the consultant walking in and making that great suggestion. All right, great. Thank you guys for sharing that. That's really helpful. So what I want to start with is going all the way back several years to when Catalina and I were nonprofit employees, like you, once upon a time. And I actually started out as Catalina's intern out of college a long time ago. And we were working in fundraising and development and digital marketing for a nonprofit in DC. After a few years, Catalina moved up to working at a private grant making foundation out in Pittsburgh. And I became a development director in Oregon, DC. So we tell the story a lot. We talk a lot about the burnout that showed up, especially in the pandemic and afterwards, working remotely, trying to keep our development program running for me. Catalina working with a lot of very frantic grantees out in Pittsburgh, and just really the stress that came with that, the never-ending workload. And we talk to people all the time that feel very similar. Maybe they don't feel appreciated in their work, or they're just feeling like it never ends. They're taking it home with them, and they feel like they have a lot of value to provide, but they're just not getting the satisfaction from providing it in that full-time role. And so once we went remote during the pandemic, Catalina and I had lost touch for a little while. I was working from home, she was working from home, and we both independently decided that we were going to quit our jobs. I was planning to go into a master's program at GW, which I did for a short period before launching our business. And Catalina was just going to quit and see if she could get a different job and move somewhere that would be better for her family. So she texted me. I happened to be picking out my Christmas tree. I remember I was walking through the Christmas trees and she texted me and said, "Hey, I'm quitting my job. I heard you just quit yours. What do you say about potentially going into business together? I know a nonprofit that's looking for some support." And I had nothing better going on. I just had this master's program and really no plan. And so I said, okay. And within 6 weeks, we were right where you guys are now. We're like, okay, what do we do next? And so we're calling our parents and our aunts and our uncles and our friends and our professors and saying, how do you start a business? And how do you set up an LLC? And how do you structure a proposal and all of these things? So in 6 weeks, we were up and running and had no idea what we were doing. And it was great. It was awesome, but we really did not have a plan. But we did know that we were craving more freedom, more flexibility, more control over our professional and personal lives. And we decided to take the shot. And that was really the thing that changed everything for us. So I love this next slide. This is life after, okay? This is life in consulting. We have been in business now for I guess over 4 years. We started consulting for nonprofits, doing a lot of tech stack support, CRM-based support, helping them set up donor databases and things like that. What we didn't realize at the time was how much our life outside of consulting was going to change, having control over our schedule, having control over our income, having control over who we worked with, how we worked with them, the kind of contracts we were taking on, the kind of nonprofits that we were getting to support, passion projects of ours, issues that we cared about. And we were also able to have a lot more autonomy. Catalina was able to move to Charleston, a place her family had wanted to live for a very long time. She now has two little ones living out there in Charleston. I have been on the road, as everyone on my team knows, for like 2 or 3 years now. I moved to Italy with my husband for a while in the summer of 2023. We were there for about 3 months before relocating to Fort Lauderdale, now Savannah. And now I am about 35 weeks pregnant, and we'll be moving back up to New Jersey this summer. So the fact that we've just been able to have a lot of flexibility, be able to pick up and move when we want to, not having bosses telling us when to work, has really been a game changer. And that's really not a pie in the sky story. That's actually really our life now. And for a lot of the people in our program, they expressed the same thing, that they thought it sounded so impossible and so scary. And then once they took the leap, they actually felt more control over their career, more control over their personal and professional life, and more stability, as it turns out, as well. So I just wanted to share that this is the behind the scenes side of the business that makes it all worth it. Not to say that it's easy getting started, but you can see here from this graph here, I love to show this from our first year, from when we signed our first client in February, and we moved up here, landing, I think we had just the one client, then we brought a second one on in June. And you can see once we started adding the third, started adding in some projects, by the end of that first year, we did hit our first $20,000 month. So under 12 months to get to a 20K month. And then here is when I went to Italy, and you can see here, this is my favorite picture my husband took of me on our balcony in Rome, invoicing for $23,000 from Italy. So after that, the business did kind of take off, and we've had a very steady income ever since, working with those clients and now also running this program. So just to give you a sense that these are the real numbers. We're not one of those join the program in 6 weeks and you'll be making $1 million. That's not this program. That's not us. This is more realistic. But you can see that it actually did become pretty consistent after the first year and has continued to be very consistent. So I just like to share that to give you guys a transparent look at what it looks like to start a business. And I don't think this was ever with more than maybe five clients at a time. So it's really not even as many clients as you would think. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the 3 most common paths to getting started that we've seen. We've talked to a ton of people. I mean, our email list, we have what, Tamara, 3,000 or 4,000 people on the list, and we've probably talked to 1,500 of them at this point, reaching out and to have meeting with them, hearing their stories. Catalina has talked to a bunch of people on LinkedIn. I know we've talked to a lot of you, so we know that there are certain common threads that we see for people who are getting started and how they're going to approach consulting. And so one of the ways that we see, as a popular term now, is having a side hustle. So some people are still in their full-time role and they know that they want to build a runway to start consulting, but it's not something that they can just do right away, cold turkey, quitting and getting started. This is actually what Catalina did when she was getting started. When she left her foundation job, she took a job at a nonprofit where it was remote. It was a position in planned giving. She was able to take a step back and not have to put in the 80 hours, a week that she was doing before, where she was, very high powered job. She did take a pay cut to do that, but she knew that in the long run that it would work out and she would be able to transition into her consulting business. So I think it took about a year, Catalina, where she was working that job and then also building the business alongside on nights and weekends and around her schedule, the full-time job. So that is one way that we have definitely seen people do it. And we have people in our program who are doing it that way. You can go the way that I did inadvertently by quitting and having no plan other than a master's degree, which I also quit to go full on the business. Is quit your full-time job, having some cash reserves, and a clear plan to fully commit to your consulting business. So we have people in our program who do that too, who say, hey, you know what? I've worked really hard. I've put in the time. I have the savings. And I know that if I'm careful and I make a good budget, that I can do this and get up and running in 6 months. And so there are plenty of people that choose to do that. And as long as they have a plan and they understand exactly how to get started, it's only a matter of weeks or months until they are fully started up and running as a consultant. And then we see people who are in this position where they have to pivot. Maybe they've have a sabbatical that they've taken. We know a lot of moms who've gone on maternity leave and then they don't want to go back to the role that they were in before. I know, Tamara, you can speak to that a little bit. You want to change after you've had this big change of life. We also know people who've been laid off or they've had their nonprofit close or be acquired. I've seen that happening quite a bit lately. And some of those positions get cut. So sometimes you're not really, life chooses for you a little bit, and you're faced with the prospect of either needing to go and find a new job or find something else to do to earn a living. And this is where you might do a rebrand. And instead of focusing on applying on Indeed or LinkedIn for every job listing that you see, you might actually transition how you're thinking about earning and start transitioning into looking for clients instead of employers. So we have seen a few people do that very successfully as well. So these are the 3 tracks that we see. Tamara, any others, or Catalin, any others that you've seen? I feel like that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I think just to add. Oh, go ahead, Kat.
Just the retirees, Julia.
Oh yeah, and then so the last one I did mention earlier, but we do see a bunch of people who are retiring or they're on that 5-year path to retirement, and they know that they still have a lot of life left in them. Obviously, they're young and capable, but they are retiring from their role that they've been in for many years, whether it's fundraising or as an executive director. And that kind of pre-retirement track is perfect for consulting if you have a great network and you have a skill set and 25 plus years of experience. We do see that quite commonly as well. And Tamara, we're going to add something there.
Yeah, I'll just say most of the people I talk to, and for those of you who don't know, I talk to about 20 individuals per week, and all I do is kind of hear people's stories, identify kind of what areas we can help provide resources to, or just to see if there's an alignment with, we have a mentorship program that can help, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But a lot of it is people burned out. There's the fear of instability in their current role. So 99% of the people I talk to have thought about consulting for a while, and it's either just on that brink of they're at a crossroads, they don't know if they want to do it, they need some sort of confidence or proven track record, return on investment when they invest in a program, and just kind of get over the imposter syndrome is really the main thing.
Yeah.
Or I talk to a lot of folks that are in that 1 to 3 month, just starting, not sure if they want to wait till they have a client or two, but they know that they need something. So those are the 2 main ones I talk to.
Awesome. Yep. I think that's great. If anyone else has any other paths that they've heard of, or if any of these resonate with you, go ahead and pop it in the chat and let Catalina and Tamara know. I don't know my chat, I can't see it, but they'll read it. So I wanted to share with you guys here some members of our mentorship community. So it's nonprofit consultants that we work with in our network who are actively supporting consultants. And I just wanted to share with you their stories because no 2 are going to be exactly alike. Obviously, all of you have different experience levels, different niches. Some of you are fundraisers, some of you are executive directors, some of you are marketing professionals, events coordinators, or you might have an even more interesting, more niche specialty that is less common in the sector, and you're wondering, oh, well, I don't know. I've never heard of anyone else who does this, or I've heard of too many people that do this. I don't know if I'd be any good at it. So I just wanted to share with you some real life examples of people that we've worked with that we know for a fact have done this, not just us. So first one is Anne, who we love. She was actually the first person to join our community a year ago in February, while still working full time in her planned giving director role. She works at the university. And what she ended up doing was she talked to her employer. She had a good relationship with them. She'd been there for many years. And she said, hey, you know what? I'm on the pre-retirement track. I know that consulting is something that I want to do. I'm not ready to leave my job, but I would like to start pivoting a little bit into this consulting as a side hustle. So she worked with her employer and they agreed to cut back her workload to 80% so that she would have more time during the week to begin pursuing clients and signing them on her own time. When she joined our program, she actually did land her first client in 6 weeks. And the first success story I remember hearing from her, which was so exciting, was that she, in her first 6 months in consulting, made enough money to renovate her kitchen, which was something that she had wanted to do for many, many years. And she was finally able to do it. And I just like this quote here that I had from her. I asked her, how has her life changed since starting consulting? And she said it gave her a lot more confidence as a subject matter expert. It increased her income, and it provided her with assurance that she can transition to 100% consulting based work in a few years as a glide path for retirement. So I love that term, glide path. She also talked a lot about confidence when she first got started, saying, I don't know why it's taken me so long to do this. I always knew I was an expert on plan giving, but I just never had the confidence in myself and really thought, why would people listen to me? And now she is, I believe she's going to be a speaker at a presentation or at a conference for plan giving. So she really just, when she joined, she decided I'm going all in, and she has done very well. Now I have Mara, who is a nonprofit marketing consultant, and she joined our program, our community in December. She had actually already been consulting on her own for more than a year. So we also talked to a lot of people who got started on their own and they kind of knew what they were doing, like us, but after a while they couldn't Google the results anymore and they didn't know what else they could do to get started. So she joined our community. And I really liked her story. She had wanted to move. She was in California and she really wanted to move back to Mexico to be closer to family and raise her son there. And so when she moved, she actually worked with her employer and retained them as her first client. So she just transitioned how she was working with them because they loved her. They knew she did great work and they didn't want to lose her. So they turned her into a consultant. And once she had one client, she was able to hit the ground running and land a few more, where she does marketing, email marketing, and website design, graphic design for them. And we just spoke recently, and she's on track to begin earning more than 10K a month consulting. So I thought that was really great. And her quote here that she shared with us recently, that since starting consulting, her life has transformed in meaningful ways. The flexibility that she now has in her work hours and where she's able to live has been incredibly empowering as a mom of a toddler. The move to Mexico and working remotely has allowed her to deliver her services at affordable rates while enjoying a lifestyle that supports her goals. And the balance between the professional impact and personal fulfillment has been deeply rewarding, giving her the freedom to align her work with her values and priorities. So for any of the young moms on the call, our business is entirely mom owned and operated. Consulting has been a godsend for us, that we've been able to all still work, have an income, find value in our professional careers, but also be there for our kids. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Mike. He is great. He's amazing. We met him in October of 24, and he is one of those people who decided to go cold turkey. So he was an executive director at the Pride Foundation for several years, and he decided that he had had enough and he was ready for a change. So he did love the organization, but he needed a switch. He left there, and then he sort of had this point where he thought, oh, well, maybe I actually should take a job. And so he tried to take a job in a major gifts position, and it just didn't work out. As soon as he took it, he knew, I really should have just gone all in on the consulting. People have been telling me I should start consulting for years, and I'm just holding myself back by not taking the leap. So he finally did it. He said it was long overdue. He knew what savings he had in the bank. He knew how long it would take him to build up the cash to make up his income. And since joining our program, he has launched his business website, landed several clients. And I did want to share just a screenshot here, which we thought was so cool. In November of 24, that he had officially replaced 90% of his salary from his last job. So just really exciting to see people join and then take the leap and actually build up much more quickly than you would imagine. And then the last one here I wanted to share is a good friend of ours and another early adopter of our network. That is Andrew. He is a very interesting story because he actually never worked for a nonprofit before beginning his consulting business. So I wanted to share that because I know there's probably several of you on the call who maybe really want to be in nonprofits and really want to be doing charitable work and giving back in your communities. But right now, you're not exactly sure how that makes sense with your skills. So Andrew came from corporate accounting position, and he retired from that after many years. He had been serving on the board of I think it was his local church and a few other organizations where he was on the board and sort of supporting them in a volunteer capacity. And he started talking to them, saying, how can I be of more value as a consultant? And of course, his accounting and financial management experience was a huge win for a lot of these nonprofits. So he continued to work with them in a volunteer capacity. And then as he's launched his business, he has now begun to sign clients, including one he just told me this week has 4 different projects that he's working on for them. So volunteer jobs are turning into work and turning into more work. And I love this quote from Andrew as well. He's confident that he's found the right path. So it's completely different for him, completely new, not just the work that he's doing, but also the sector that he's working in. His professional skills are now being applied more intentionally to support and guide purpose-driven organizations. Choosing consulting has also connected him with an inspiring network of individuals and organizations dedicated to change, opening new opportunities for training and partnerships and amplifying his reach. So I just love to share that as well, because if any of you are like, how do I get into nonprofits? There's a lot of room for you, and there's a lot of room for a lot of different skill sets that nonprofits are looking for right now. So Tamara or Catalina, I don't know if we have any questions at this point before I go into the 30-day action plan.
Yeah, the only question that I had was a question about, are there any nonprofit people ops or HR folks in the mentorship program who've been able to successfully launch their business? And I've talked to a couple. I know everybody's got a different niche, but I don't know. You obviously do the one-on-ones, Kat and Julia. So if you want to speak more to that, but I can connect with her after and share some info.
Yeah. And you said HR, operations, and
those two.
What was it there? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have executive directors specifically who we're talking about crisis management, succession planning, HR operations, staff retention. We see a lot of those are popping up as very popular niches that consultants are pursuing, and nonprofits are looking for those skills as well, particularly as you see a lot of nonprofits going through. I know we know a lot of nonprofits. They've been around for a very long time. Maybe they have an executive director who has been there for 20 or 30 years. They're finally retiring, and the nonprofits are seeing a little bit of like the floor falling out from under them because everything was reliant on that person. So boards are looking for that kind of support as they transition to new leadership, transition to new programs and things like that. So yes, we're absolutely seeing that cropping up as a consulting niche. All right. So now how does this all help you? So you've heard about you've heard about our journey, you heard about a couple other people that we work with how they transitioned into consulting. No 2 plans are alike, but the steps that you all are going to take to get started, which you can start as soon as today, as soon as you get off this call, actually, because it's so easy and it all just comes from inside your brain. I am going to outline those for you. This is what we typically have people in our program do in the first 30 days from joining. And it's an easy action plan. So I'm just going to walk through it with you and see if you have any questions. So the first part of building your business is really stepping back and saying, before I do all the stuff that I think I need to do, which is establishing my LLC and setting up a website and getting my fancy headshots done and spending all this money, you really need to decide what you want to do. And that's mapping your vision. So we want to define your long-term goals, the impact you want to have as a consultant, and clarifying your passion areas, what you like to do for work, what your goals are financially, and your unique value proposition to the market. So building a vision board, writing down your vision. We have some different exercises that we work through with people in the program for how to really understand where are you right now and where would you like to be 6 months from now, a year from now. When we got started, a goal, like I said, for Catalina was to move to Charleston, which she's now done. For my husband and I, we really wanted to travel, build up our savings, and get some important milestones covered in our personal lives. And we wanted careers that were going to give us that flexibility. So mapping that out and understanding that from the start helps you a lot on the business side, because once you understand, let's say you only want to work 25 hours a week and you want to be able to travel, you're going to build your business in a certain way to meet the lifestyle that you are trying to pursue. So if you have a house that you would like to pay off, you have financial goals there, that is going to be what you're going to be pursuing with your business. So it's really important to understand where you are now, where you're trying to get, and then that gap between and how to close it. So the action step here, and it's very simple, and you can look up a ton of resources for how to do this, but writing a clear vision statement that outlines your mission, your goals, the change you aim to create in your personal and professional life. I don't know if any of you have heard of mind mapping, but this is something that Catalina and I learned way back the first nonprofit we worked at. And you kind of get out your papers and your pens and your colors. If you're kids, maybe they're crayons, and you just start drawing connections on the paper. It's a very creative way to do it. We really like to do that every once in a while. Just get all your ideas out, but making a board will work as well, or just writing down your ideas. So I strongly encourage you guys to do that. Doesn't take any effort or money besides you just sitting down and setting aside some time. So the second and arguably the most important one that is going to be something you start in the beginning and then you continue iterating all through your business is defining your niche. And I know there's some debate online and on LinkedIn back and forth. Well, should you be a generalist? Should you be a specialist? Whether you decide to offer a range of services or you just decide to offer one, having a niche and understanding the kind of work that you want to do, who you want to work with, and the kinds of things that you are not going to be offering is going to be extremely helpful for you as you scale your business. And also it's going to help you attract the right clients because you'll be communicating how you solve a specific problem. So one of the early mistakes that Catalina and I made was when we made our website, made our service page, we said, well, why don't we just list out everything that we ever did in our nonprofit jobs that people might want help with? And as I know, you all know from wearing all the hats and doing all the different things that you've done at your organizations, you probably know how to do like 30 or 40 different things. And that's about how long this list was. So we had marketing and fundraising and website design and graphic design and board management and strategic planning, and just everything under the sun was listed on this website. I want to tell you that no one ever contacted us through this page because it was a big mess. It communicated nothing about what we did and what we could really help with and the problems that we could solve. So when we actually got rid of, I don't know, 28 out of those 30 things and just focused on the two we were really good at and really wanted to do and talk to people about how we could help them with that specific problem, it made it a lot easier to explain to nonprofits the value that we offered them and the kind of projects we could do. So all that being said, oh, go ahead, Tamara.
I was going to add something I think is funny. I use the example. A lot of people come to me and have conversations about they don't know what their niche should be. They're good at a lot of things. They just don't know what is marketable. And I always tell them your story about the picture that you share with all of the, I say it kind of started off with like your, Cheesecake Factory menu where you've got a whole book of offerings and it's so overwhelming. And then when you actually whittled it down to like, if you're familiar with the West Coast, there's like In-N-Out where it's got literally only 3 items that you can purchase. It just makes it so clear and you know exactly what you're getting and what you want. And that just makes it so easy for consumers and clients. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. So I know you all know how to do a lot of things that aren't in your job description, and that's great. But in terms of building a business, having something that's key that you can offer, that you can customize and you can build out in different ways. And we talk about all kinds of unique ways to do that. Starting with having a general niche that you can lean into as you get started is going to be essential. It doesn't mean you can't change it over time. We've changed ours, and that's fine. But you want to start with conducting a self-assessment, listing your strengths, and then looking at market trends. I'll talk in a minute about market research to pinpoint where you can add the most value. And so the free resource that we have at the end has to do with defining your niche. So more to come on that in a minute. And then the third step really here, really important, I do this all the time. Catalina and Tamara know that I love my spreadsheets, is developing a financial plan. There is one, if any of you use Google Drive, it's like the annual budget template. And I use it all the time. I use it for my husband and I and our finances. I use it for our business finances. And it's so easy. You literally just plug in what you spend every month and then you put it at over 12 months. And then you can see how much money you need to get by, what your goals are, and you can play with it that way. And then you see, how much you're spending, how much you need to earn, and you can build a runway that way. So I encourage you all to do that right now. And if it looks like, you know what, I really can't do it right now, but I can see where I can build this in over time, that's great. Or you might look at it and say, hey, you know what, I have a lot more money than I actually thought I did. And I really do have the bandwidth to do this in the next 6 months or 3 months or even right now. So if you don't do that on a regular basis, I highly encourage you to do that just for your own personal well-being and for financial planning. it's great and it's kind of fun if you like numbers, but it's going to help you pick what transition best suits your situation. So it's really not complicated. It's just looking at what you spend every month and putting it into some kind of a spreadsheet or a list and comparing that to what you earn every month or what you would like to earn. So super simple, super easy. There's no magic there. There's no fancy solution. It's just understanding how much money you have and where you want to go.
Can I add one thing here, Julia, too?
Yeah.
I talked to a couple folks who are actually now working with us, but without saying their names. But one of them came to me and said that she actually used the money that she was spending on ads. She was spending, I believe it was $2,000 to $3,000 on ads. And instead of doing that, she invested in personal development or professional development. Someone else, another person that I know, she also had an interesting story about how she put and invested $5,000 to $6,000 at a conference and did it some sponsoring and decided that maybe I should do that. She's like, Tamara, I got nobody from it. And so looking at some of the things that you spend money on, making sure that there's a return on investment, it's really good to just get counsel on that too. So just to help.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point. We've done that too in our business. I mean, we've paid for a few sponsorships last year that we were like, we won't do that again because it wasn't really cost effective, but there's cheaper things you can obviously pay for. So yeah, so moving money around as well is important. So obviously talk to your accountant, talk to your spouse, your family, whoever you make these financial decisions with, and everyone's going to have a unique story, but there is always usually a way to do it if you just look at the numbers. Right. So conducting market research, I know that sounds very official and scary, but it's really simple. It's just about talking to people and understanding the problems that they're facing right now and how you might be able to fill that gap. So you can do this in a lot of ways. You can do research online, but you want to analyze industry trends, client needs, competitor strategies. So let's say we look at Anne, doing planned giving. The first thing that I would have told her to do is look into what services are currently out there for planned giving. What other consultants currently exist, large agencies, small agencies, tech companies that are serving this niche, and just try to understand what problems they're solving and how you might be able to add additional value or unique value there. So there's a lot of things you can do. We also encourage people to do informational interviews. Like I said, we reached out to anyone we knew in the beginning who was working in nonprofits, whether that was old professors that we had. Catalina did a nonprofit management program at Columbia. So we reached out to a few of her Columbia professors. We reached out to cousins that we had who worked in nonprofits. Anyone that we knew, old bosses, old colleagues, and we just interviewed them. We said, hey, do you have 15, 20 minutes time just to talk to us about what you're seeing? And that helped us to narrow down our understanding of what the pain points were and how we might be able to address them with our services. And that one's kind of fun too, because you get to meet a lot of people, you do some networking that way. I know a lot of you are probably members of things like AFP or you attend conferences every year through your work. So this is something you can really have fun with. It's not something that you just do once and you're done with, or you do this periodically as you build your business. But that's the best way to get started, is just to understand what's going on out there. And it also helps you not to feel so alone right in the beginning. And then the last thing, which is really important, that we really didn't understand ourselves until about 3 years into business, was actually investing in ourselves and investing in business development. We joined 2 coaching programs last year, and Catalina was like begging me forever. And I was like, no way. We'll do this when we get more clients, when we make more money, that's when we'll invest in business development. I'm not budging. My spreadsheet says like, that's it. And she finally, it was like 2 months, me and Catalina going back and forth. And finally, I'm like, all right, just do it. And so we joined this program. It was a weekly Zoom call with other business owners. And it actually was not specific to nonprofits. But by joining that call every week and listening to like 100 other business owners talking about their sales strategies, their marketing, their operations, and listening to the coach talking about how to build a pipeline, how to acquire clients, everything that we were doing in an okay way, but we didn't really understand how to scale at that point. So we were hitting our revenue goals. We were making good money. The business is doing well. We had hit, 6 figures in income in our first year and had maintained that every year since. We really didn't know how to go bigger than that. And this was a way that we expanded our professional network. We enhanced our understanding of how business worked. We were able to simplify We were able to delegate. That was when we started building a team. We brought on Katie, who's our admin. We brought in Tamra to help us with the business development. And all of that breakthrough really came from investing in ourselves and in what we were learning. So we joined that one. And then we also joined a group for women in business, which helped us a lot with our PR and our marketing as well. So as you know, I've mentioned that we have a program, the Relatable Nonprofit Mentorship Program, but there are a couple others out there as well. And so we want to be agnostic as possible. If ours is right for you, that's great. But do your research and look into what other options are available. But highly recommend joining a program because it just took all the bottlenecks that we were feeling and how we were banging our heads against the wall. And we just couldn't come up with any more free resources to really get us where we wanted to go. By joining that program, meeting the right people, having the right conversations, and just simplifying everything that we were trying to do. I probably worked 15 hours less a week since we joined those programs, just because so many of the problems that we were creating for ourselves disappeared very quickly once we understood we were doing wrong. So it was a fast track, absolutely, was investing in business development. So whether that is attending workshops, networking events, ongoing learning opportunities, or joining a community like ours, of course, we'd love to have you. All of these things are going to contribute to really putting you on that glide path, like Anne mentioned, to building the career in consulting that you want. So that is step 5. You can do all of that in 30 days. I promise you, we've done it. And then you'll be in business. So just want to leave with a closing thought and then some time for questions. But where could you be a year from now if you started today? I love to ask myself that from time to time when we're embarking on a new challenge. It's one thing that we did. It's June of 23, I think it was. Catalina, we started the Relatable Nonprofit Instagram account. We had no business like motivation behind it. We didn't really know like if it would make us money or how, or if it would grow. We just said, you know what, why don't we just post on Instagram once a day for a year and see what happens? And I'm pretty sure we're over 7,000 followers now. We've connected with literally hundreds of nonprofits through the account. And I'm always thankful that we did that. And we took the leap and we just said, you know what, we're not really sure where it's going to lead, but we think it's going to do something great. And we just did it. So that's that. So that's the presentation. I want to take some time for questions if you guys have any. And I do want to mention, so we do have a free Find Your Niche toolkit that we developed. It's like a 45, I don't know if it's that long. It's not even that long, probably like 30-minute training, and with a worksheet, and it walks you through how to find your niche. So if anyone is interested in that, email Tamra at divineparker.com, and she'll send that over to you. If you have any questions about the program, obviously you can ask them right now, or you can email Tamra, Catalina, or myself, and Catalina, you can drop our contact info. So any questions, Tamara, that we're getting from the audience?
Yeah, we are, but I think I just hit up Kat. I was like, Kat, can you just say hi and tell us a little about you?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Where'd she go? She's
her.
Oh, I don't know.
Hey.
Sorry, what did you say, Tamra?
Oh no, I was gonna say introduce yourself. I know you're kind of quiet, taking all the chats and stuff, but I think it's really good for them to hear from you too.
Oh yeah, I mean, Julia said it all. I mean, we've started this brand and it's been so exciting, and we've never looked back, and now we're really evangelists for trying to get other people to start their own businesses just because it's totally transformed how we live.
I do love seeing when I'm trying to schedule time on the calendar for Kat or for Julia. I love seeing like, sorry, not available, taking my daughter to gymnastics and like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm going to Pilates at 10, and yeah, consulting's great. We do have a question from Meredith. She had a question on, can you speak a little bit more about starting your Instagram, the strategy you took, and how it's benefited you with the Instagram?
Yeah, Catalina, do you want to take that one? Just talk. I mean, I can talk about it too if I know you've got the kids there in the background.
Yeah, we started the account, like Julia said, just for fun, and we use it today as lead generation for our business. So we have a content marketing strategy, and then we run ads, retargeting ads to a free quiz where people can put in their information and see if they would make a good consultant. So there's a whole, I mean, I can connect with you offline, Meredith, and send you. I just did a podcast interview on the strategy itself. So happy to send that.
And then we have another question. This is a good one too, is Blake asked, what are some successful stories of the community supporting one another, like referrals, skill development? I love this question. Great question, Blake.
Yeah, I love it because we actually, when we started the community, we never even occurred to us that like people would help each other. We thought, okay, we're just going to provide a ton of resources, everything we know. We're going to make all the worksheets and all the videos and do all this stuff. And then we started to see people kind of flock together without us in different ways. So I know there's two women in the program who both, I connected them because they both lived in Texas and they met up and hosted a roundtable together. At one of them runs a co-working space for nonprofits, and they did a development roundtable. And so this was a co-marketing activity where one actually was able to present on her services as well, in addition to providing content for the co-marketing space that day. So that was really cool. I know that they are talking a little bit about whitelisting some services. So if someone offers social media and the other one offers email services, I've seen that where people are starting to kind of link up and say, okay, I'll do this part of the scope, you do the other part. They also have run several times now in the community a co-working session that we haven't been involved in, where members will just say, hey, does anyone want to jump on a Zoom call? And a few of us can get together, review each other's pitch decks, review each other's proposals, and which is just really cool to see people from all over the country getting together. We even have someone in the program from Australia. So when the time works out for her, she'll join the calls, which is cool. And giving each other real-time feedback, which is great because I think that was the biggest thing we were lacking when we got started, was just being able to get feedback from someone like, are we doing this right? Does this make sense? Does it sound good? And that was something we're like, well, we think it makes sense to us, but until someone else looks at it and gives you that fresh perspective, you're just not always sure if you're doing the right thing. So those are a few. Did I miss any?
Yeah, we have something else too, is that we now have something called like the Insider Series, where consultants can actually, that are part of the program, actually have time to talk for a period of time to other consultants, and other people can join the call. It's one thing to read on a website or a blog what someone's niche is or what their services are, but it's different when you hear them speak and they talk about their story and they talk about their services, who their constituents are. And so we have them have that platform to do that, because I guaranteed the org that you're working with also needs an accountant, or they also need an HR person, right? Or they also need someone that does marketing strategy. So referrals is the name of the game. And if you are a consultant, you have to work with other consultants. So we highly encourage that in the community. That's why we pair you up with folks too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Another question we have is, would love to hear an overview of the program. Is there a set time frame, minimum commitment per week?
Yeah. So we basically just try to make it as simple as possible and give you just everything that we think you need to be successful. So it is a 12-month commitment when you join. How much time you spend on a week-to-week basis is up to you. So there's three primary components. We have the actual course content, about 40 hours of content. Basically, you can do a lesson a week, and that's going to walk you through the actual building blocks of building your business, the fundamentals, just getting everything set up, the marketing, the sales, the onboarding, customer success, all of that. So you can do that on your own time. The second piece is the community. So we operate the community on Circle. It's this great, I mean, it looks like a Slack channel or a Facebook group, but it's private. And we have different channels there where people can post their progress. So someone might launch their website and say, hey, can everyone give me feedback on my website? And everyone will jump in and communicate there. So that has a DMing feature and all of that. So the community is constantly active with consultants chatting with each other, collaborating on their businesses, et cetera. And then the third component is the live support. And so we have a Wednesday call, 3 p.m. Eastern every week. And that is usually run by me. Sometimes Tamara does a sales training. Catalina will come in sometimes and do mindset trainings. And what we do there is really just focus on whatever the need in the community is in that particular week. So this week, we talked a lot about ChatGPT and how consultants are using AI and different prompts that you can use to bolster your business if you're a solo entrepreneur, because a lot of people were asking about time management and things like that. So on a week-to-week basis, I change those up. And then we also offer 30-minute one-on-one calls, where if you have a specific issue in your business, you can book a call with a member of our team and we'll sit with you and actually dig into that problem. So it's a 12-month program. And then after that is a monthly subscription until you choose to cancel. But you can join at any time. It's kind of designed to join where you are. It's not cohort based. We think that kind of limits you a little bit. I think that's everything, right?
Yep. Yeah. I like that you can enroll anytime. I think we wanted to also be able to have people that are newer work with people that are tenured too. It's
Yep.
a lot easier to have a mix of people that I think can leverage, their experience in the program or just being more longer and consulting potentially as well. Another question we have is, how did the process of shifting your niche go? Any challenges, strategies, considerations to share?
Yeah, we've done it a few times. So the first time we were just taking any kind of client we could. So we were building like an individual giving program. We were helping with plan giving. We were doing different things. And then once we decided that what we really wanted to do was support nonprofits with their tech stack, so still building their individual giving program, but like digging into the meat of how you build a pipeline for donors and kind of the tech and the integrations of that, it was great because what we were able to do was productize for the first time, and we can actually build a package. And we teamed up with a couple of CRMs that we were friendly with and joined their partner programs. One of those was Virtuous, which where Tamara used to work. And it was really helpful because instead of having to customize every single project that we were doing, we could say, hey, here's the project. We're going to set you up. We're going to help you input all your contacts, set up your email marketing, whatever was in the scope of work. And we're able to then replicate that much more quickly. We had an understanding of what the timeline would be. Rather than beforehand where we're kind of all over the place, and just kind of developing proposals on an ad hoc basis. And then when we launched this program about a year ago, that was another shift for us, which was helpful. At that point, we were already known in the industry. We already had a lot of connections, and we still do obviously consult for nonprofits as well. But when we launched this business, it was a little bit of a different audience. Nonprofit professionals instead of nonprofit consultants. And it was very helpful that we had already built up a reputation, connected to people, and had done a lot of the marketing that laid the ground there. But we haven't had a ton of trouble with that conversion. And we know a few other people who've done that as well, and they've been fine as long as you stick to the ICP, your ideal client profile, and you're addressing the right pain points.
Yeah, and actually, I'll actually answer this. Someone asked about the price of the mentorship, and I don't feel like it's some sort of hidden thing. I'm only answering it because there's a couple people have asked now. So if it's the right fit for you, and again, that's usually where I kind of help qualify if you're there's an alignment with your goals. It's $3,200 for the $3,200 for the year, and then or upfront, or it's $295 per month. We just changed it. That's why our prices changed the 15th of this month. So, but we can talk more about the details about that. And then the next question is, how have you all taken or acted on feedback from the community? What is that?
For
Does that
improving
mean?
the community?
Yeah, Blake, tell me more about that question so we can make sure we're answering it right.
Yeah, sure. So I imagine there's feedback loops. Everybody's gonna talk, but from a leadership perspective, understanding how you will receive that feedback and then actually act on it to make the community that much better is something that I would be super interested in hearing about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very casual. We wanted to, we usually get, we have over 30 members now. We get like maybe 15 people on a live session each week. And I don't know, a few weeks ago, they were saying they wanted to add that Monday co-working session for just consultants to join. So we added that. I get emails every few weeks from people just saying, hey, it would be helpful if you could post the subject ahead of time, like give us a week so we know what the subject for the live session is going to be. So because we have a great team, I do most of the community management, but Catalina is behind the scenes. Katie is behind the scenes. Tamara, we have a streamlined sort of feedback loop where any kind of request comes to us, we deal with it together as a team. And it's actually been amazing to get that kind of feedback from the community. We really thought it would be all one-sided when we started the program, but people are so vocal and they will come to us and say, hey, can we chat for 30 minutes? I was thinking about, Tamara even launching her sales series. So she once a month does a sales training for the program, was an excellent innovation that we just hadn't thought of before. And then I know Mike had approached us a few months ago and said, hey, can I present about my niche, which was sponsorships for events? And we said, sure, of course. You want to produce content for the community? That's amazing. So yeah, it's been very casual, but we really have no problem implementing those changes. as we grow. So it's actually been really helpful and very gratifying to see people wanting to contribute versus us just kind of putting everything out there for everyone to consume. It's actually a way more of a two-way street than we could have foreseen before we did this.
And I can even send you guys some, I usually every month do some screenshots of what's happening inside the community, like what's going on this month is kind of like a sneak peek. I think it's really important to see, not from us saying what we're doing, but what the community is doing. And yeah, they're really flexible. Even like when I came in, I was like, let's do this, let's do an impact report. And they're like, let's do it.
Yes.
Now we have this amazing impact report that's sharing how professional development in this program, again, there's other programs that are great too, but how that's impacted them professionally, but also how they're helping local and global communities in this sector, which is really what we want to, right? I wanted just to real quick add this question. Someone else just asked, any tips on getting started on market research? My niche is business operations, and that either isn't enough of a niche to have a market, or I can't really find it beyond fractional COOs.
Yeah, I mean, I always like looking at competitors on LinkedIn. So looking at the keywords for who else might be supporting that kind of thing. If you're having trouble finding it, it might be because you're not being specific enough about what it is that you want to offer. So you can also try like re-engineering how you're framing it to be more like, what are the pain points you're trying to solve? And then looking for what people are searching there. So if you're trying to solve like a retention issue, you might look up LinkedIn articles about retention in nonprofits, or just Google articles that way, and then see what people are providing as solutions, and then see who's providing those solutions, and you can kind of figure out by working backwards that way. So it's a nuanced and unique approach for everyone depending on what they offer, but see how far you can get by Googling, looking at the common nonprofit blogs, Chronicle of Philanthropy, see what topics they're covering related to your niche.
Yeah, and Kat just actually asked if you give us some more specifics on the type of business operations, she can send you some examples. So
yeah. Go ahead, and if you want to reach out to Kat personally, she can give you that as well. So I think we're about at time, right? We're at 4 here. Of course, we'd love to have you all in the program if you'd like to join. Tamara is here as a resource for you if you have more questions, or if you want to have a call. If you've already chatted with her, have a follow-up call about the program. If you want to talk with me one-on-one, or Catalina, if you have any questions for us, we're more than happy to chat with you more about our experience, where you might fit in the community. But we'd love to have you this year. So thank you so much for attending. We'll leave it at that. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thanks, y'all.